flowers tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant. In every shade and room. For every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant. And every shade and room. For every heart and every hand, we've got something for you, just for you. In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors blurs like.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our live about conifers. So we're going to be talking about how not to get conned. Hi Chris. So you might be wondering, how could you possibly get conned by a conifer? It's a plant. Well, Chris is going to tell you about that. Thank you so much everyone for tuning in. You are our community of gardeners. If you do have any questions, just pop them in the comments and we're going to answer them at the end. So take it away, Chris. How do you not get conned by a conifer?
Well, what it is that there's so many different types of conifers, and they all grow to different sizes and shapes, and some are really tiny, some are lovely to keep in a pot, and some are really good for putting out on the farm. Some are good for a suburban garden. And so what I'm really going to be talking about is instead of getting conned and planting the wrong conifer for the job. You see so many people with that have a monstrous conifer towering over their house, or people with little sick dead conifers or on farms and things like that. And it's all a matter of knowing your conifers and choosing the right conifer for the job.
Incredible. So what are some of these conifers we're going to talk about? We're surrounded by quite a few here, Chris.
Yeah, okay. I gathered all the conifers I could from around the nursery, and I've actually got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20,
Wow.
25 different conifers
and look
here.
at this. You guys aren't even seeing all the conifers we have all set up for us to talk about today.
Yeah.
So take it away. What's the first conifer we're going to chat about?
So what I was going to talk about is applications for conifers, and then with the application, show you which conifer you would use for which application. So first of all, one of the most popular uses of conifers is for tall, skinny conifers. What people would normally call, say, a pencil pine, and we'll start off there. And here's three that you might choose. There's this is a blue arrow. So you've got a blue arrow here. You've got a Swain's golden pencil pine here. You've got and some of these conifers are going to cross over. Here we've got in the background here, we can't quite put him up on the table, but here you've got a Spartan. Now a Spartan is what I call, can you see that there? A Spartan is what I call a fat pencil pine. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you've got your Spartan, and then you've got your Glauca pencil pine, which I'm not seeing. Gosh, I've actually need 26 there. And then there's a Glauca pencil pine, which I don't actually have here at the moment. And the Glauca pencil pine is the dark green version of this. So let's discuss that. These, you can use these if you've got a large garden and you want a kind of a focal point. You can plant 3 together, and they do really well together. You can plant them as an avenue, like if you want to lead people's eye, say you had a beautiful feature up the end of the garden, you can lead people's eye with avenues of pencil pines. And you've got your Swain's golden pencil pine. It's a lovely, neat golden one that doesn't grow very quickly, and gives, has this lovely golden foliage and stays a very neat, tight shape forever. And it was discovered in Swain's Nursery, named after the Swain's Nursery, so it's called a Swain's golden pencil pine. Then you've got the blue arrow, and the blue arrow is the best one, trims up beautifully, and best one for keeping really narrow and tight and for not growing too big. And then you've got your glauca pencil pine, which I don't have one here right at the moment. You've got your glauca, and then you've got your Spartan. Now your glauca pencil pine is absolutely fabulous. There used to be all sorts of pencil pines on the market, but when the glauca came on the market, it took over from all the rest because it stays neat, it stays tight, it doesn't have too many nuts on it, and it grows like crazy. So a beautiful dark green towering column, grows probably 9 meters tall. Now it's one that where people come to me and they're perhaps a little elderly or something like that, and they've got some units going in across the back and they want something really tall to block out the units, I'll often say glauca pencil pine. The reason being is that with a lot of tall hedges, you'll end up a ladder with special trimming gear and stuff like that, quite dangerous, trimming them, trying to keep them narrow, and if the neighbours complain, you'll be on the other side trimming them. But the beauty of the glauca pencil pine is it'll shoot up 9 meters tall, it really very, very quickly, only stay a metre wide, and you'll never have to get up and trim it. So often, with older people who you don't think you want them to go up a ladder or anything like that, you put that as their tall, narrow screen. It's also a fabulous avenue on a farm or any sort of big space, or if you want to lead the person's eye out to something. Glauca pencil pine, very fast, very tough, very reliable. And then the other really, really good, a lot of people wouldn't call this a pencil pine, but I call this a fat pencil pine. And this is your Spartan here. Now your Spartan grows really, really quickly, and like these Spartan warriors, it's very, very tough. It doesn't need much water, it doesn't need really good soil, it doesn't need much of anything, and it ends up 5 or 6 meters tall and probably about 1.2 meters wide. And now the great thing with conifer hedges, you can grow, and with these tall, narrow ones, you can grow them as a narrow hedge by planting them fairly close together. And this one here is good for that because you don't have to plant it too close together. But what you'll notice, if you were to trim branches off a conifer and pick them up, you'd notice that they're quite heavy. And so when I get a customer in here and they might be on a dirt road and there's a lot of dust and dirt out the front coming through to their place, and they want to block off the dust and dirt, or if you get somebody with a railway line or a freeway at the front or back of their house and they want to block off some of the noise, I don't sell them a lily pilly, I don't sell them a pittosporum, I sell them a conifer, because conifers are heavy and weighty. And it's the same thing, if you were to block out some noise and you had a choice between a paper wall and a brick wall, you choose the brick wall to block out the noise. And so the thickness and heaviness of a conifer is very, very good for blocking out noise and noise and dirt. They're really good on a dirt road for absorbing the dirt and that. So because of the density and thickness of your conifer. So they're your pencil conifers. Then the next sort of, and what's interesting is that one of the most versatile is your Spartan, and I'll show you why in a minute. This one here, this is kind of your small feature conifer. This is a smaragd conifer, and it has a slightly higher water requirement, and with a little trim, you could keep this just over a metre tall. So and it comes up to a lovely point, and it's fairly slow growing. And this is one that people use as a feature in the garden. And you can use this in a suburban garden. You can keep it quite small. If you never trimmed it, it's going to end up sort of 2.5 metres tall. But it's a beautiful, thick, luscious kind of a one. And the other kind of small feature conifer that we have here that's very, very popular, actually I've got two here that are very, very popular, is I've got your golden biota. That's your golden biota there. And your golden biota, that's actually a cousin of the smaragd, and it grows into a sort of a lovely golden ball. and with a little bit of a trim you could keep that 1 metre tall forever, or if you let it go it'll end up 1.5 2 metres tall and a big fat round ball. But really, really hardy, beautiful, you know, little sort of garden feature. People sometimes put these as a row along the front fence or a row up the driveway or something like that, and smaragd is like your green form of it, and it has a point on it, and this one here has a more rounded top on it. So that's your biota. Then from there we look at the serious hedging conifers, and what's interesting is that the glauca is good for a hedge, but we won't do that now because it's a sort of a super narrow hedge. But if you wanted a sort of a hedge that you're going to cut into a square or allow it to be big and bushy, the best ones are, first of all, your Spartan. You can cut that. Now, what's interesting about Spartans love to be trimmed. And we often sell them here where they're cut into a spiral. But you could get a Spartan, you could cut it into the shape of a chook. You could do any sort of shape with it at all. Or you can plant them up close and cut them into a beautiful square, thick, bushy hedge. And then the other ones that we've got that are great for hedging is, and very, very popular, it's your Layton's green cypress is probably one of the most popular ones for hedging. And Layton's green grow at enormous speed and make and although this looks a bit sparse now, they grow like crazy. You can plant a small one of these and have it up 3 metres in 2 years. So you can grow 3 metres, and then you trim it up and it'll thicken up and bush right up, and it makes an absolutely beautiful hedge. So this would be one of the fastest 3 metre hedges you'd ever grow, and that's from planting quite a small one, probably 2 years to get it up 3 metres tall. And you can grow them as a tall screen on a farm. And what's interesting about them is that they've got a central trunk on them, and there's one down at the Kooyong tennis court. There's a hedge there that's 5 metres tall, and it's only about 1 metre wide, and it's 5 metres. Unbelievable, beautiful wall of green, and it's a Layton's green. And the reason why they're able to do it so narrow is that they've done a bit of hard work and have some special equipment to do it. But it's also they're working off this central trunk that the Layton's green has, and the Layton's green is a hybrid between the macrocarpa cypress and another type of cypress, and often hybrids have sort of special vigour, and the Layton's green is probably the most vigorous conifer that you can get in the first couple of years. I think the best I've ever seen was I saw a chap get one up 7 metres in 3 years from a small size. So, and that was with perfect conditions, water and fertiliser, and you know, no grass or weeds around the bottom. And then we have the other conifer that we have is the Castlewellan Gold. And Castlewellan Gold is a cousin of actually that one there, this is not a Castlewellan Gold, this is a macrocarpa cypress. So there you got your macrocarpa cypress. Now when the gold rush went off in Victoria, a lot of people migrated from the dying, gold rush over in California and came out to the Bendigo gold rush. And with them, for that part of California where the gold rush was, you had the macrocarpa cypress grew wild. And these somehow got to be growing wild here in Australia. And your macrocarpa cypress, a lot of people think they're slow growing, but what's interesting is farmers stick this out in a paddock, never water them, never fertilise them, never do nothing. They grow really, really slowly. But what I found, I planted a macrocarpa hedge, watered it and fertilised it, and it grew. I had a most magnificent 3 metre hedge in about 2 years with beautiful, and this one here is a bit yellow, but once they get going, they have they have a lovely lemony smell, but very, very hardy, and you can make the most beautiful hedges. And we've got some good videos up on YouTube about macrocarpa hedges, but a lot of the best and most expensive properties around Melbourne have got macrocarpa hedges, and it's a real sort of, because they've been here for nearly 200 years, they're a real sort of classic hedge. And you go down to Portsea, and you go down to Toorak, and you go out to Colac, and you go right down the Western District, and some of the best properties have magnificent macrocarpa hedges. And what's interesting is you look at those big old hedges, 5-6 metres tall, if you put them in and water and fertilise them, you can do one of these big classic hedges in only a few years. So it's quite an amazing, versatile and useful plant. And then the other one is your Castlewellan Gold, which is the gold version of the Layton's Green, and it's not quite as fast growing as the Layton's Green. It's a little bit hardier. Now, one thing that's interesting, the macrocarpa has probably a lower water requirement than the Castlewellan or the Layton's Green. So you'll find that that we're in a sort of an area where where it's a bit dry, you can put your macrocarpa in, water it for the first couple of years, get fantastic growth on it, trim it up, and then you can stop watering it, and it doesn't need very much water. So so macrocarpa, fabulous sort of classic conifer hedge. Then what we do is that then conifers can make the most wonderful feature trees, and I've got some beautiful feature trees here. This is a Japanese black pine. If you go to Japan, you'll see, and the black pine is distinguished by these lovely white candles that you see here, and lovely long needles. And if you go to Japan, they trim and train these into beautiful shapes, and that's it there. They trim it. That's the candles on top. They trim them into the most beautiful shapes, and they make the most wonderful feature tree. And then here you have your Araucaria, which is your Norfolk Island pine, and if you go to the Gold Coast and go to the beach, you'll find these along a lot of the beaches. They're really, really beautiful, and you find them all down, they grow everywhere. They grow down in South Australia, they grow in lots of places along beaches and things like that. Very, very hardy, very, very hardy, fast growing, and a really beautiful specimen tree. Then you've got your this is an interesting pine, this here. This is your eating pine. If you go down to Coles, you can find little pine nuts, and most of those pine nuts are grown in the Middle East, but the eating pine grows beautifully here in Australia, and it has beautiful sort of like a turtle finish. And when they grow up, they grow fairly slowly, but once you get up there, they have a beautiful sort of turtle shell finish on the trunk, and a flat head on them, and a wide spread on them, and very, very beautiful tree. Lovely to see 3 or 4 of them out in the middle of a big field. So that's your eating pine, and I've never eaten ones that have grown in Australia, but then I haven't been up to sort of climbing into those big pine trees. But certainly they do well in quite hot, dry, difficult sites. And then I really love cedar trees, and there's quite a range of cedars available. This is a now, the most common cedar you see, I haven't got one up here at the moment, it's an Indian cedar, which has the long needles on it, and they're fast and easy to grow. But this one here is an Atlantic cedar. And Atlantic cedars are really, really beautiful. Little short needles, and as they get older, they get a really sort of funky, interesting shape to them. So really funky, interesting shape, beautiful, beautiful tree. And they start off slow. Like this one here is probably 5 or 6 years old, but once you get them in, you'll find, and they get up a bit, they'll start growing, 1.5, 2 meters a year as they get bigger, and you'll find in 30 years you'll have a massive tree, absolutely massive tree. And this one here is a grafted blue form of your Atlantic cedar. So beautiful blue foliage, fabulous tree. And again, it grows at a compounding rate, but the great thing with your blue cedar is it trims really well. My mum used to use them for floral art, but they trim really well, and because they trim really well, you can keep one, down to a reasonable size for a suburban garden. And then here, you've got an interesting little one called Feeling Blue. And our Feeling Blue is a little grafted miniature one, and what you'd have to do is you'd have to train him up. As he grows, you train him up, and he just ends up with sort of lovely blue weeping foliage, and kind of a collector's piece, or something that you might grow in a pot. So that's your cedar trees, and cedar trees make great features.
Who knew so many different conifers existed? Quite a collection.
When I was young, my dad had a conifer nursery, and he grew 120 different sorts of conifer.
Wow, how many different sorts do you reckon we have here at the nursery?
Probably only 30 or 40. These days, conifers are not quite as popular as they were back in the 70s and that. But here's another. This is a Sequoia gigantica, and these are considered one of the biggest trees in the world. And what happens with these grow, once they get going, they grow surprisingly quick. I remember I sold them to a chap, and after 15 years, he said they were up like about 30 feet. And but they get a beautiful thick trunk, lovely sort of red bark on them, and these are the giant sequoias that you can go visit in California. So that makes another on a nice big property, that'd make another wonderful feature. A lot of these larger ones are really great for a nice feature on a larger property. Then
So if you have any questions on conifers or about your garden, get them in now and we will answer them.
Yeah. Now here is a Juniperus prostrata. Now these ones here, a lot of people will get these and they'll make them into bonsais. You can get them and you can wire them to hang down and wire them to sort of arch over and stuff like that. And that's a beautiful one for making a bonsai. And a lot of these little ground covery ones, that's another nice. But these are your ground cover conifers, and these could be made into sort of little bonsai shapes and kept in pots. But the main application is to grow them out in a garden, and they'll cover a large area and be really low and extremely hardy for heat, wind, all that sort of stuff. So that's the range, and that's not even the full range of all the conifers in our nursery here. But that's a range of conifers, and conifers have many applications. They have many applications in the garden. You can use them ground cover, as a small feature, or as a large, sort of really kind of classic feature. You can make beautiful avenues out of them. You can screen off the neighbours, and they're fast and tough. You can screen off a freeway, a railway line, a dusty road. Many applications for conifers. So do we have any questions on conifers?
Well, we don't have a question on conifer, but we do have a question about silver birch. And yours truly is asking, can silver birch trees be feature trees?
Yes, they can. And I really think that as a feature, they look fabulous when you plant 2 or 3 virtually into one hole and have them sloping away from each other. So beautiful feature. But the main feature in a silver birch is the white trunk, and by planting 2 or 3 together, birches are cheap, so it's not expensive to do that. Plant 2 or 3 together and you've got 2 or 3 of the main feature, which is the beautiful white trunk, and then they tend to grow away from each other. You get some nice curves in them when you plant a few together.
We actually have a video about silver birch trees and how they look great all year coming out soon. So if you follow us on any of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you'll see that maybe sometime this week or next week. Anyone else have any questions before we round up? Do you have a favourite conifer at all out of all of these ones that we've talked about today?
I think I really love the blue cedars, and what it is when I was a kid, my dad used to make blue cedars, and it was kind of a family ritual. We'd drive up around Lansfield and that, and Dad would send us right up. I don't know whether he sent us right up 120, 150 foot up a big old cedar tree. We'd have to knock all the cones off, and then we'd take them home, we'd dry them and get the seed out of them, grow them. And he'd grow them for 2 years, and then we'd go around to opposite the stone church in Kalorama, and there's a beautiful old blue cedar there, be 90 years old. And he'd get up there and he'd get me to cut all the shoots off the top of it. I'd be hanging on with one hand and chopping with the other hand, and he'd be saying, more shoots, and then he'd graft them on, and then at the end, a year later, he'd have a blue cedar about this big. And we'd have collected the seed ourselves up around Lansfield and that, and then we'd graft them, and I think that I sort of from that working with them, and then from working with them and climbing the trees and chopping them and doing everything with them, I really appreciate that what a beautiful tree they are.
Incredible answer. Hopefully you didn't make your kids do that too, climb up some tall trees.
I don't know, did I, Emma? Did I ever have you up trees collecting seed or cuttings or anything?
Nah.
No. Yeah.
His kids were safe.
Yeah, my partner said that my dad was maybe trying to knock us off.
Who knows? Well, thank you everyone for coming to our live about conifers and how not to get conned. You are our community of gardeners. If you find that this information is resonating with you, please do share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones. If you think anyone else is going to relate or find it important for their gardens, anyone maybe considering buying a conifer. Thanks so much for coming, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Tuesday.
Thank you. See you later.
In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello.